Riot. Revolting People from Wat Tyler to Watts by Matthew Hartley. Look at this great little war game. Run off on a laser printer. Only $5 from our good friends down at Irregular Miniatures. Let's set the stage. Riot is a slightly tongue-in-cheek game about urban violence between unruly mobs and security forces through the ages. Today's episode is brought to you by special request. Here in the House of Wargaming, we like to give our viewers what they want so they don't burn down our stuff. How apropos. What we're looking at is the fictional city of Cindy in the fictional country of Dununderland. And here in the foreground you can see three big mobs of citizens. They are Dununderlanders who are horrible, terrible, vicious, nasty people who really want to go for a walk in the park. Can you believe it? Oh my God, the very thought makes me sicker than any fake virus ever could. And that's the problem. Somebody out there in Dununderland has the sniffles. They can't be allowed to do that. Fortunately, the government is standing by to stop these mobs. Now, you'll note I've got 3 mobs of 12 bases. One over here, one over here, and one over here. These are 6mm figures, again, from our good friends down at Irregular Miniatures. They do sell these rioters in 15mm as well, if you're so interested. These are AI-driven. No human would want to control such horrible, nasty people as those who want to go for a walk in the park. And we'll get into exactly how they move later. There are 2 teams. There's one team of security forces, and down over here, starting the game on this side of the board, we've got the security forces. Now, the scenario calls for 25 points of police and 25 points worth of military. Because I only have 36 stands instead of the 72 stands of mobs that are called for, I have scaled back the security forces appropriately as well. We've got 20 points worth of police forces divided into a 3-stand team of foot-mounted melee boys here, a matching 3-stand group of melee boys over here, and 2 stands of horse cops right there. On turn 2, the military is going to come on the board. We've got a tank, and 1 unit of shooters. They have standing orders to open fire on any civilians caught out in the street. If they have to gun down 10,000 citizens, I think we can all agree it's worth it if it saves just 1 life. And anyways, it's not like they're shooting real people, they're shooting citizens. And, you know, if they want to go for a walk when there's a case of sniffles about, what a bunch of See You Next Tuesdays. Hey, speaking of See You Next Tuesdays, this is the media headquarters building right here. This game is not actually a game between security forces and the mobs. As I said, the mobs are driven by the AI, mob mentality. It's a game between the security forces and journalists. Journalists cannot be targeted by the security forces. Their whole goal is to capture evidence of police brutality. If it bleeds, it leads. They score points by being dismounted from their rides within 2 inches of something happening. We got a little list here. We're going to have to keep track of how many points they score. I'll give you an example. Now, for those of you that are familiar with this game, first of all, I'm really impressed. This is a pretty obscure game. Second of all, we do not have any star reporters. They normally would get more points for reporting. All I have are regular old reporters. So they're, you know, if you want to be honest, they're a bit understaffed. We're dealing with 16 points worth of reporters versus something like 40 points worth of, I think it's 41 points worth of security. So they're understaffed, but that's okay. They are going to receive 2 points if they are able to witness a rioter base up to a total of 12 points. They are going to score 3 points for seeing a tank at work, 3 points for seeing security force charge, 4 points for a horse charge, 4 points for melee. And for every base destroyed, they're going to receive 4 points. And if police brutality is called by the security forces, that gives them basically a +4 on all of their combat for the turn. But if they're filmed, it's a bonus of 4 points. And the break-even point for when a political disaster occurs, and essentially, that's what we're looking for. If they can score enough points, they win. The game works on an action point system, and I'm going to roll the yellow dice for the security forces, and I will roll just 4 dice. Now, it doesn't matter. The journalists are all going to start in this building, and they have the option of leaving via either this door or this door. Those are the only 2 ways out. And they're all basically the same, so I'm just going to roll 4 dice. And we're going to give them 1 action point, 1, 5, and 6. Turn order looks a little something like this. First, we roll the dice to see who goes, and then you move in descending AP order. With 6 AP, they can actually move a grand total. I'm going to need a much bigger ruler. They can move a grand total of, what would that be? 6 times 3, 18 inches. So if they start there, and I think we're going to go ahead and just bring them right up to here, and they're going to seal up that little alley between the news channel and the church. They're done. Then we have one news team. Now, you can hop in a transport, and that's what they're going to do. Old Les Nessman is going to jump out of the back door and move 1, 2 inches. He's going to spend an AP to hop in the WKRP news van, which can then use an AP to move 4 inches. So that's 1 to get there, 1 to load up. This van can then go 1, 2, 3, 4 for number 3. And we're going to go to there for number 4. We'll go here for number 5, and they're going to dismount. We'll actually park right there. And that's where they're going to wait and see if they can catch the news. Then we move to number 5, and these guys can move a grand total of 10 inches. They're going to take advantage, and they're going to slide up to here. Bear in mind that the way the game is written, you assume that there is a 1-inch grid along the entire board. Then this guy is going to come out the front door. He's going to go 1, 2 to get into the Jeep here. The Jeep is going to be able to go... basically, you can just count squares, because each of my bases is 1 unit. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1 to get out, 1 to get in, 3, 1, 2... Well, why is he doing that? Why doesn't he just, if he's going to wind up over here, why doesn't he just come out? That's 1, 2, that's 1 AP, 2 AP, 3 AP, and then he's going to spend his last 2 AP, and I'm going to mark this as a witness. So by spending 2 AP, if he gets within 2 inches of a mob, he's going to score some of those sweet, sweet video points. Then we have 4 inches over, 4 AP of 4 over here. So he can move a grand total up to 8 inches, and that's going to put them right there. And I guess it's about 3 bases wide. That's fine. This little alley over here is 1 base wide, so that might come in handy. I think, and then these news teams, we're going to have one is going to saddle up, and this one is just going to come out. Oh, you know what? He can't. He's just going to come out to here. And that is it for movement. The next phase is going to be ranged fire, firefighting, and security charges. We don't have any of those. Rioter reaction rolls, movement, and combat. The way Rioter reactions go, Rioter bases work a little bit differently. I think we could probably squeeze in that third one here. Notice that this particular base right here has a guy with a big no sign. He is the leader base. And what we're going to do to speed play up is we're going to measure our movement from this guy. He is essentially the head of a snake, and the rest of these guys are going to follow suit. Wherever he goes, they'll follow. Whenever this mob loses a base, it's not going to be him. He'll be the last one to go. The mob will completely disperse once it loses its 9th base. When it gets down to 75% of its size, it's over. But we do need to look at the next mob up right here, because I have put them in a slightly odd position. The leader is this guy right here. Once again, you see he's carrying a giant sign that says no. And I couldn't decide which way they're going to go. So I'm going to roll a d6. On a 1, 2, 3, they're going to go up this way. And on a 4, 5, 6, they're going to move up that way. 4, 5, 6. So we're just going to go ahead and drop him right here. And this mob is going to follow him. All 3 of these mobs are classed as lynchers. Don't get too freaked out about that word. It just means that they have a target they're looking for. And they will consider themselves to have won the game if they can finish with the park full of citizens enjoying a pleasant Sunday afternoon. That's this table here. So what we're going to do is when they are within 3 inches of a tank, we're going to roll a d6 on this chart. And we're going to start here. There's no tank. So we're going to look at, are they within 2 inches of a horse? They're not. Okay. Are they further than 2 inches? And that's where we're at right here. So we roll a d6, and on any result, they are going to move. That means they only move, wow, they only move 2 inches from the looks of things. 1, 2, mobs will expand and contract to fill up whatever spaces they're in. So they're going to have a bit of a hike ahead of them. I should point out each of these stands has between 5 and 6 people. And facing doesn't really matter for these guys. Once we get into combat, you'll see why. So 1, 2, these guys are going to kind of fall in right there, and we only have enough room for 2 by 2 in this column of rioters. And then this column of rioters over here in the red ball caps and the black jackets, once again, is also only going to move 2 inches. And just to kind of give you an idea, this is what the leader looks like over here. He's carrying a... wait a minute. What is he carrying? Why is he carrying a piece of bread? That's a little weird. But I should put that one on the yellow jackets, don't you think? That would have been a little more appropriate. So we'll move them up 2 inches. Notice that the cars block line of sight. That's just one of the ways that we make this this battlefield, if you will, this urban center as unique and different each time as possible. Likewise, the trees are going to block line of sight, and that's it. We're done with turn number 1. I have changed my mind. The security forces, the actual shooty boys, are not going to come on until violence actually erupts. But I don't think that'll take that much longer. So I'm rolling for my security forces right now. We've got 5, 4, and 2 over there, and then our reporters are going to have 5, 4, 4, and WKRP over here. I'm going to try to keep these up on the buildings whenever possible. He didn't get any footage, not this time anyway. So with a result of a 6, this news team can move. They're going to be the first to move, and they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be, then they have 2 AP left over for reporting. Then we've got these police over here are going to be able to move 10 inches. And as with the rioters, they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to stop them right there. So they have sealed off the road. That mob's going to have to shove their way through. Then we've got another news team here who is going to be capable of mounting up for 1 AP. And then let's make this the Channel 4 news team, shall we? We'll give them the Jeep. They're hopping in the Jeep, and the Jeep is going to be able to move. Where would they be interested in moving? Let's try to put them right here, maybe? No, let's race over here and see if we can catch some footage over there. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 2 points. What do they have? They've got 5 to spend. 2, 1. Okay. So that might not be for the best. If it's 1, and then they can move 8 inches and dismount. Yeah, they're going to want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 2 AP. And then 1, 2 to here. And then drop a observation token. So for those 2 AP, they are actually recording their footage. And we'll put it right next to them there. So you just barely see him behind that tree. Hey there, Ron Burgundy. He's wearing the burgundy jacket. So that's still the Channel 4 news team, I guess. Then we have a bunch of 4s. These guys are going to... they're just going to sit tight. In this case, I don't think we even need to roll because they don't have any possibility of moving the 2 inches. 1, 2. We're just going to fill them up. Now, this ambulance here blocks their movement. So they have to contract to fill in that gap, and that's where they're going to stop. Everybody is only moving 2 inches. So by moving 1, 2 inches to there, these guys then are going to score points. The WKRP, good old Les Nessman there, is on the streets reporting on turkeys. But these turkeys really can't fly. And then this crowd is also going to move up 1-2 spaces like so. And that's about it. Once again, we got a couple of cars parked here in the parking lot that are going to be, they're just going to kind of keep them squeezed down to 3 tight. And that's it for rider movement. We need to record those points. And for witnessing what is that? A rioter base, that is 2 points. So turn 3 begins. And we have to roll for our security forces. Still no violence in the streets, although it's getting a little hairy down here. So we'll roll for the police down here, these horses, and these police up here score 3 AP, and then we've got to roll for a reporter here, a reporter here, reporter down here, and then we've got one more reporter. Oh yeah, they're back here kind of hanging out waiting for the military to arrive. And we're gonna move in order of, these guys are, let's see, these guys 5 and 5, gonna be some simultaneous movement here. They're gonna move 1 space to here, and then they're gonna drop 2 eyewitness reports like so. So they have a possibility of filing 2 reports. And that's it for them. Then these horses are going to, now they can charge into combat. Moving to contact works a little something like this. It costs 1 AP to get to within 1 inch. And then to charge into combat, like so, is going to cost 1 AP as well. So they still have 3 AP left. They're not going to need it. That's it for them. Then these guys are going to file 2 more reports with the wire service. And that's all they're going to do. This reporter is going to move 1. Oh, you can't even see that reporter, can you? Here he is down here. He's going to be able to move 1, 2, 3, 4 to here. So he can get a good look over there. And then with his last 2 AP, he's going to try to score a peeping point. And then we've got another guy over here with 4. I don't know what he's doing. He's just driving around. 1, 2, 3, 4. He can move a total of 8 inches. 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, no, he can actually move a total of 12 inches. So why don't we drive him around to here, and then we'll go ahead and dismount. That's going to use all 4 of his AP. He's not anticipating getting any footage this time around. And then these cops over here are going to be able to move 1. That's 1 AP. That's 2 AP. And then 3. So all they're going to be able to do is close to within 3 inches of this mob. And I think that's... No, we got one more set of cops right down here. And they have just enough AP to close to combat. So they're going to charge in right here. They are within 2 inches of this reporter down here. They have now witnessed a charge, so we need to figure that out. We've got a total of, and these guys are also within 2 inches. So we're going to file a rioter base. We're going to fire 3 charges, 2 of which are for the horses. So before we do anything else, let's tally up those points. Each action can only be reported on once. We're going to give him 3 points for the foot charge. We're going to give him 4 points. No. We're going to give him 2 more points for seeing the rioters, and then we're going to give this guy the 4 points for watching the horse charge, for a grand total of 11 points out of our 50 for the political debacle. Now we can do some combating. Do you have any ranged fire? Oh, I see. You're supposed to do all movement. That's why I got a little bit confused here. So these guys, basically, they need to stop 1 inch away and save an AP so that they can do their last AP to charge into melee. And what that does is it gives the Channel 4 news team time to get into position so they can witness that last charge. And they do need to have line of sight, which is why I put them right here so they can see kind of around the corner. Now it's time to do melee, and melee is a simple 2d6 roll with a whole bunch of modifiers. High rolls are good for the rioters. Low rolls are good for the security forces. And since we're already set up here, let's go ahead and see what happens with this security force. You got to take it one base at a time. We get to pick which of these combats we want to do first. So we're going to start with the guy in the middle. Our 2d6 is going to be modified. It's going to be +2 because he's got 2 bases behind him. It's going to be another +1 for the base that is next to him. So a total of +3. Then it is going to be -1 and -1. So we are up to -2. And I think that, or -1. It's +3, -2 for a total of +1 to the die roll. And a result of 10 is going to be the security force is destroyed. What? All right, the army's coming on. Now this guy is going to have it rough because he is going to be rolling a total of +3. He's got no side support, and this guy has 1, 2, 3 support. So we roll this, add 3. A result of 11 is security force destroyed. So the mob has just completely overrun these 2 stands of police. Then we're going to bounce up here to take a look at this horse charge. Doesn't matter which one of these guys we start with. Let's go ahead and start with this guy right here. His going to be at a total of +3 for all the support. And then he is at -1 because he's got a horse next to him. So we're at a total of +2. And then because it's a horse in melee, it's a -3. We're at a total of -4. And we are at a total of +3. So it's a total of -1 to the die roll. And a result of a 4 now is going to be Rioter destroyed. When the Rioter is destroyed, a base moves in, and oh, hey, look! This guy is able to file a report about the destruction of a base. So that's going to be 4 more points. So we're up to 15 already. And I think that's it for the combat. Moving on to the next turn. Now, because we've had a couple of police forces overrun, having destroyed these 2 stands, these rioters will all move up that 1 inch. Got a little bit ahead of myself. You only do 1 melee per turn, but we need to take a look over here because prior to melee, these guys should be rolling their reaction. They are within 2 inches of this stand of police. So we have to roll, and on a 1 through 4, they're just going to move straight ahead. Actually, on a 1 through, and then on a 5, they're going to attack, and on a 6, they're just going to pull back. So on a 3, they're going to move up, and they want to, because they're only 1 inch away, they are going to move into contact. And I think if they attacked, they might have gotten a bonus on the resulting combat. So there is going to be a combat over here as well. And that is going to be, we'll start with this guy over here. In this case, we want to start over here as the police. No, we want to start here as the police because, oh boy, either way, I don't think it matters because this guy is going to be at a total of +3 to the roll, -1 for the support, for a total of +2. Likewise, this guy, at least as it stands, is going to be at a total of +4, -2 for a total of +2. So it doesn't matter who we start with. Everybody's going to be at a +2. Let's go ahead and start with this guy on this side first. And with a 5 +2, a 7 is going to be a standoff. The guy in the center, we're rolling, and with a 14, this cop is eliminated, and then this guy right here is going to be at a total of +3. And that result of an 8 is going to be security retreat 1 inch. So he at least is going to fall back into that alley. And now we're done with this turn. We need to dice for AP for the good guys. Because of the violence, the king, premier, lord, and master, dictator, what have you, of Dununderland has mobilized the military over here. And they're going to come on anywhere on this base. The GC Mini is a 6 for those guys. 1 tank gets a 6. Wait a minute. No, GC Mini is a... Oh, this is not a GC Mini. Look at that. 18. That is a strong roll. 3 6s. Those guys are going to come tearing on like nobody's business. Then we have to roll for the police forces down here to see how many AP they get. We've got a lone stand down here with a 6. Holy cow. The horses and then a couple of stands over here that are in a group also get a 6. Are you kidding me? I rolled 5 out of 6 of these dice came up 6s. That is bonkers. We got a news team down here who's going to have a total of 2 AP. We've got one kind of messing around over there with 3. And then we've got a pair down here in the thick of the action with a pair of 5s. The military is going to go first. Let's bring these tanks on. And we're going to bring one of them is going to come. How fast do those tanks go? They are classed as tanks. They're worth 6 points each. And they are... Well, how fast do they go? Tanks move 2 inches. Oh, okay. That's not as fast as I thought. But, I mean, with all 6 AP, he's going to be able to roll on down to here. We've got one who's just going to roll. Let's see. The horses are doing pretty good. Let's go ahead and bring him somewhere central. He's going to be able to move to there. And then these guys are also... Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 millimeters. You can tell because they're green. That makes it a little easier to tell the difference down here on the board as well. Security forces, well, the military has all gone. Now remember, they can fire at range. Now we're going to have to boogie on out of here. We're going to bring these guys back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we'll just leave them right there. We're going to bring this unit up. Boy, they got slaughtered. We're going to pull back to here, and we're just going to try to funnel these guys towards the security forces. So there's our 6, 6. All of the 6s have gone. We've got 1 unit of horse. They don't actually need AP since they're just going to stand there fighting. And then we've got some newsboys who are going to drop a couple of file reports there. And that's all these guys are going to do. We've got 1 more report to file down here. And then, what else? Let's bring these guys. They're still in the van, so they can come 1, 2, 3, 4 to here for their first AP. And then we're actually going to dismount them. They can move 4 more inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're just kind of running around like idiots. They're going to park their car right there to block traffic, and they're going to dismount right there. And that's about it. How appropriate. Running around like a bunch of idiots. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for the movement. Now we have to roll for security teams, ranged fire, firefighting, security charges. And I don't think we have any of those. Rioter reaction. These rioters are simply in combat, so we don't have to roll there. Here we got to roll to see whether they charge. They're going to move via the easiest path to get to that park. Now they are blocked off here, 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 and there. So I think they're just going to move up. Let's roll 6 to see if they attack. Nope. So they're just going to move. 1, 2. 1, 2. Hey there, fake news. You're kind of blocking us out there, which is probably why we need to do the grid. So they have advanced up to here. And they spread out to fill up that gap there. Over there we've got combat, and we need to roll for these guys over there. On a roll of a 1, they're simply going to they're going to wheel around and go 1, 2. 1, 2. Our leader always stays in the lead, so he's going to come up here. And I think that filling in like that is going to be our order of battle. Order of business. Hey, well, if we can't walk in the park, at least we can have a lovely little hike in the streets. Like so. Now we got to do our combat. Nobody has any combat. That's not true. These guys have a combat, and they're going to be rolling. Again, it's going to be a total of -3. For the horse, oh, that's on first contact. The per infantry or horse, rear support or side support. Because that charge didn't work out so great, it's not a charge. They are merely going to be at +1 versus a -3, so this is going to be a +2 on each of these die rolls. Well, it's +2 for the first one. So that order of 6 is going to be Riot or Retreat. We'll push him back to there. Now this horse is going to be, at a total of +1, -1. So this is an even Stevens. If they can roll low here, which they can, that's going to be a 10, security destroyed. So this horse is also destroyed, and these guys get more reporting. That is a base destroyed for another 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is another melee. 1, 2, 3, 4 for that. And I think that's it for combat. Dicing for AP. First for the tank. He's only going to get 1 action. These guys are going to get 3 and 1. So they've slowed down considerably, haven't they? Speaking of slowed down considerably, at this point the game turns into something of a slog. We've gone down the road. You've seen how combat works and movement and how the AI drives the mobs. We're going to condense 40 minutes of gameplay down into 10 minutes, and I'm just going to narrate. And what you're going to see happen is our mobs grind up to that next kind of north-south road, and then they get stalled out by the police, who throw up an effective cordon. Fundamentally, the reason this turns into a long, grinding affair is because of a couple of factors that we've talked about in recent videos, and specifically it's about scenario balance. Now, the couple of things to be aware of: the game calls for a 90 by 90 centimeter city. We're dealing with 75 by 75, so it's a little more compact. The game also calls for a grid of 1-inch squares with streets that are anywhere from 1 to 4 inches across. And we don't have that. So we don't have nearly as much flow as as the game really calls for. Heading north to south, if you count from north to south, heading from east to west. If you're traveling east to west, you've got, hey, look, see, here come our tanks. They're moving into position. We've got a few cops left. You've got from north to south, you've got 1, 2, 3, you've only got 4, maybe 4.5 paths. So if our police cordon can block off 4 of those paths, then it really does hamper things for the mobs. One of the other balance issues is, as I mentioned at the start of the video, we've got half as many mob stands as we're supposed to. But what you'll find with this game is that a 9-block stand of mobs is a lot less powerful than a 12 stand block. That 12 stand means that the leader, the guy in the front center rank, he's getting a +4 on a 2d6. That is a huge swing. For the security forces to overcome that swing, they really need to hammer the mob with at least 2 ranks of cops, and that's about 25 points. They're not going to have a whole lot of ability to do that. Now, the tanks get a -3, so 1 tank will counteract a lot of that, but you don't get a -3 for both tanks. And you'll see this coming up later on in the south, that even with 2 tanks, the best they can do is kind of push that mob back. So one of the things we could do to balance this a little better and give the game a little more flow and give the police a little bit more of a whack-a-mole game to play is to use more mobs that are smaller. That would help. We could allow for more access points for the mobs to flow around the cops. The other issue when it comes to balance is that these mobs are only interested in moving from point A to point B, so their reactions are largely driven by that, and they're mostly just moving around. If they had set out to burn this city to the ground, then, and that's where the grids come into play on the buildings themselves, then they would be dropping loot tokens, they would be dropping fire tokens, and it wouldn't simply be a shoving match, which would also open the capabilities. Remember, this is a 2-player game between the security forces and the journalists. And so on the one hand, it's a little bit balanced because the journalists don't have an ability to drive the action at all. The number of points that they can achieve simply by filming mobs is only about 1/3 of the point total. Most of their victory points are going to come from filming attacks either by the mob on the cops, which isn't happening with this style of mob, or by the cops attacking the mob. So if the cops just stand off and direct the mobs into some choke points or slow them down, that can limit the ability of the journalists to score footage that they can use to tell a false version of the events that we're watching play out. One of the other things is you look in the north section of this battle, those two mobs have now reached a critical choke point. And really, there's a little alley there behind the 3 trees that the second mob should have flowed down a lot faster. You'll see them do that later. It just took a little bit longer for me to realize, oh yeah, their movement, they should be following the direct unblocked path, and they've got one right now. One of the biggest disappointments of this game, the mob never attacked the nearest base as the journalists. Part of that is because, and that's mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, I forgot that the journalists cannot see through stands. When they're trying to gain footage, it doesn't do them any good to stand behind a cop stand. They're not going to get the footage. So one of the things that the security forces can do to limit the ability of the journalists to capture their points is move last and get into a blocking point where those journalist stands can't see the atrocities that you're about to commit. There is a rule, speaking of atrocities, there is a rule after movement, the security forces can say, yeah, we're using police brutality. And then they get, I think it's a +4 to all of their, or effectively it's a -4 to all of their combat rolls, which is huge. But if they get filmed, then the journalists will score an extra 4 victory points. So it really is a make or break, high risk, high reward situation. And between that and the 2 tanks, that might have been able to wipe out that southern mob. One other thought, and you can see this here, those 2 tanks down there, they are fighting at even Stevens against the mob. There's just too many people there, right? I mean, they're basically dealing with 100 Tiananmen squares, and there's only 2 tanks. So the mobs, they do succeed in pushing that yellow mob back for a while, and then they shift over. You'll see coming up here in a couple of turns, they're going to shift over and let the mob kind of flow through and around that smallest building in the lower section of the shot. That's a little convenience store. And that really is one of the big things that would have helped to balance this game out and turn it into less of a slog. If those were rioters, then the police would have to jump in and stop them from looting and burning. Otherwise, everybody loses. Because they're lynchers, they're trying to move. And remember, they only move 2 inches per turn. So one of the things you could do is say, hey, let's put a hard and fast limit to the number of turns they have. Sundown is going to happen at, I don't know, at that latitude at this time of year, but let's just call it after 15 turns. Well, hold on. Got to run the numbers. These mobs only move at most 2 inches per turn. So if we're trying to get them across 36 inches, they're going to need at least 18 turns in order to get there in a straight line, right? Across an 18-inch board. Maybe bump their movement up to 3 inches when they're unimpeded, or maybe even 4, and then give it a 15-turn limit. Now the cops are perfectly happy to steer the mobs around obstacles and direct them in directions that will slow them down and keep them out of the park until sundown. And then at sundown, the parks get turned over to whatever degenerates have claimed it for the night. And things go back to being peaceful. The mobs just go home. So that's one of the other things we could do. Smaller mobs, hard and fast turn limit, and then you would see a much more difficult time for the mobs. And if you did paid a little more attention to the sight lines for the journalists, that means that here we go. Here you see those tanks down there. They're kind of pulling out and they're saying, hey, why don't you guys swing around this way? Now, in this case, why would they do that without the turn limit? I don't know. Just lining up for a better charge and kind of slowing them down to give maybe the guys up in the northern section. And you can see in that northern section, those 2 mobs have now flowed around one of the shops, but there's still a bit of a choke point there, isn't there? So things at this point are getting to the point where we're just about ready to start speeding things up again. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, and I haven't given away the ending just yet. You'll see that soon enough. Here we go, see our tanks. Bear in mind this is an abstraction. Those tanks are Sherman tanks. They're not grinding their fellow citizens into the dust. They're largely bluffing. Maybe they have water cannons, and maybe the 20-year-old punks that are driving those tanks, they just don't have the heart to turn their citizens into hamburgers. So they've pulled off. And now the yellow mob is going to take a different route. So with all that said, let's go ahead and bring things back up to real-time play, and we'll see whether the journalists can catch enough footage to become popular on Twitter or not. All right, this tongue-in-cheek game is getting to be a real grind, isn't it? We're going to call that a 3 and a 6 for the tank. Let's tighten up the streets. Those potholes are a little bad even by Midwest standards. And then a 6 for these guys, and we've got a couple of security forces over here who are going to get a 2 and a 6 for the horses, which is no problem, so we'll move them up to the 1 inch. The horses are going to be standing by. The reporters are going to, well, let's see how many points they get. On a 3, they're going to be able to come up, so no horse charge this turn. In fact, we're going to hold him back. We've got, who else wants to move? These guys are going to move up to the 1 inch mark. Let's bring them up like that so that they have an opportunity. And then these guys, 1, 2, they're going to stay, they're going to pull back to there. And I think that's pretty good. Yep. So they're only getting 2 shots per turn, but that's okay. Then we got to roll for our mob reaction. These guys are near a tank. So with a result of a 4, they are going to flee 2 inches. And it's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, we'll kind of snake them up like this. And then do we let these guys squeeze through? I think we'll let one of them squeeze through just to bring them up like that. They're fleeing towards the park, and I think they may wind up going around this building here. These guys are going to roll a 2. They are within 2 inches of a horse. So the result of a 2 is just a move order, so they're going to move up to here and here. And we'll bring these guys to here, here, and 1, 2 like that. And then these guys also, it's all going to be the same. They're really just going to be able to kind of come up like so. And I don't think this group of rioters has lost a single stand yet. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, that's it for the movement. Our reporters are going to be able to report on anything they want. So these guys will charge into combat here. Kablam, and he's just going to move to support like so. And then we do have a couple of shots up here. Those guys are standing by. So let's start with the shooting. We've got a guy shooting here at a total of +2 to the roll. He gets no effect. And then this guy is going to be at a total of +1. It's going to be a total of +1, no effect. Our tank down here is at -4. So this is at -2 to the roll. A 5 is going to be defender retreats off the board, and we're going to call that a destruction. He can follow up, and let's go ahead and do that. We're just going to follow up. We're going to, well, no, because we don't want to get too surrounded. That's it for that turn. Got to roll for AP here. They're going to be able to scoot back the 2 inches and do some shooting. These guys are going to have 6 points and 3 points. So we'll leave them where they're at. And then we've got 2 units up here of horses and security guys. It's going to be 5 and 6. That reporter is going to get a 4, so he can follow up. So as they move up to channel these guys, the reporter is going to stay right behind them. Say, don't you move into combat. Don't you do it or I'll film you and I'll put it on the news. Then we got to roll for our rioter reaction. So a 5, when you're that close to a tank, is going to be a flee. That will be... Oh, I think I took off the wrong stand there. Where's my leader with the big placard? Oh, here he is. So he's going to go... He should be here. And he's going to go... run away. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So they're all just going to flee up like that. Which means they will not be able to charge into contact. These guys are going to roll a 3 for advance, and these guys are going to roll a 6. Let's think about this. That's not right. If you're close to that close, it's going to be attack. And these guys with the 6 are going to be so close to the horse, they're going to flee. So they're actually going to move back 2. We'll bring this guy over here, and we'll just say they move. Flee is moving 2 inches, so we got to move these guys back far enough to bring that first rank up 2 inches, like this. So these guys all fall back. And then these guys are actually going to attack here. And that becomes, with the rioter attack, that becomes the political debacle. This reporter is going to report on the rioters attacking the police. And that is game over. And the journalists have won. I think I'm going to be sick. I'm praying for you.